Hey,
After leaving the Mormon Church, I thought to myself, what do I do with belief? What do I do with religion? Should I become atheist? Should I become agnostic? Should I start using magic mushrooms? All of those things were thoughts that I had right after leaving the church. I had already burned everything and left that off to the side. And that was a blank slate looking for what to believe. Hi, I am Kai Van Leuven. I spent over 30 years in the Mormon Church, and this is what I did after leaving.
and I'm Di Beals. I'm a pastor at Venture Church in Washington. As always, I'm your friend. Can't wait to hear where we're going to go today.
All right. Well, I just want to pick back up in the story. To me, the story is really important. And if this is your first episode kind of jumping in, I recommend you go back and you just listen to the story from start to finish, because all of this will kind of start to make sense for you. Listen to this one. We have fun every episode. But this, after leaving the church, just a quick run through, left the church, went through a really depressive time of my life, decided to burn all of my relics from my Mormon past. So that was my garments, right? I'd been through the temple. That was my garments, my scriptures, and my missionary tag from serving a 2-year mission. All of those up in flames, right? I did use a tractor to smooth out its remains. So
Nice
it's
job.
all
So
it's
poetic.
all scattered.
It's all poetic until you get to the
pasture.
John Deere tractor, then it's just real life.
Di, I would never drive a John Deere. I'm a Kubota man. Come on.
Oh, okay.
Anyways,
All right.
so then I'm all orange. Then we go to, I wanted to start with the extremes of belief. My mind goes to extremes really easily. And I like making decisions based off of extremes. You start with extremes, you bounce from one side to the other, and then you come in the middle to a really good conclusion. And I'm fine staying on one end or the other with extreme choices. Atheism is on one end of the spectrum, and full-on belief in a religion is on the other. And I really thought through these methodically. I believe that you're going to believe something in your life. Mm-hmm. There has to be something that you believe in. If you don't believe in something, that's also a belief, right?
Right.
Of what's going to happen.
I was just going to say, it doesn't have to be a higher power belief. Just believing there isn't a higher power is a belief. Continue.
Exactly. So I wanted to start with atheism, which is a not believing in a higher power, okay?
Which is a belief.
Which is a belief. And I wanted to start there. And I know that this is a really large subject. And I'm not hoping that this is exhaustive, because who could do that in a podcast? Mm-hmm. But I wanted to start with one subject within atheism, which would be like science, and it would start with the age of the earth. Oh man. Oh, let's start with the age of the earth. And so what I did is I looked into the age of the earth, and not in what people believe the age of the earth is right now, but this idea of what have people believed the age of the earth has been. Okay? And I think this is an interesting study. So in the 1600s and earlier, people believed that the earth was 6,000 years old, right? A biblical worldview, right? Going back, stretching 6,000-ish years, okay? Then in 1778, George Louis Buffon, not George Lucas, George Louis Buffon, a chemist, thought it was 75,000 years old. People probably thought he was like super smart. 75,000 years old, right? Then physicist William Thomson. Now this guy's hedging his bets. Okay, can we be honest about this? In 1862, He's like, it's 20 to 400 million years old.
Yeah, it's a big
Quite the
jump right there.
range.
Yeah.
William, you weren't that confident, but
I'm gonna up your stakes by a few million.
By a few million. Then you have physicists Hermann von Helmholtz, who thought it was 22 million. So he's kind of in that range of William Thomson. Astronomer Simon Newcomb, he dialed it back 18 million. In 1892 and 1900, John Jolly said it was 800 to 100 million years old. Then you have Arthur Holmes, said it was in 1911, said it was 1.6 billion years old. Now there was a technology change, radiometric dating. Okay, so that's how he was coming up with this. And it's quite a jump to go from 100 million years to 1.6 billion years, right? Then Holmes redid his analysis in 1927 and said that the Earth is 1.6 to 3 billion years old. And really, in 1956, Claire Cameron Patterson came up with that the Earth is 4.55 billion years, plus or minus 0.07 billion years. Okay, wow. So 4.5 billion. I think it's interesting to point out how the numbers have changed. And each person in their time was probably thought of as like super intelligent and super smart and had all of the answers. Okay. I like to think of each one of them as like a Joseph Smith of their era.
Oh, gosh. Okay.
Di, you laughed at that one.
That's a good one.
Each one had had expertise, can I call it that, in their and methodology and what they looked at that made them an expert. Why I think that the age of the Earth is a reason to push me to faith is I'm going to go to understanding the difference between a billion and a million. And we're going to tie this back in.
Okay.
I showed a graphic. A million is a billion is 1,000 millions. Okay. I just showed a graphic right here of how small 1,000th is of a billion. Okay. But let's bring it into a really interesting thing. If you spend $1,000 a day, Di, have you ever spent $1,000 a day?
I mean, when we bought a house, but no, not regularly. No.
Yeah, like food and hotel, and it's actually pretty challenging to spend $1,000 a day. Okay. With $1 million, while spending $1,000 a day, it's all gone in 3 years. Okay. Seems pretty realistic. With $1 billion, if you spend $1,000 a day, it's gone in 2,740 years.
Yeah. Wow.
Okay. So think like it will never leave in your lifetime. $1 billion is a lot of money. Okay. And we're talking about 4.5 billion years. Okay. I thought about this. If there was a time lapse of creation. So have you ever looked at like a time lapse on like YouTube?
Yeah.
Okay. So if there was a time lapse of creation and each day you watch 24 hours of television was 1,000 years, it would take you 12,467 years to watch the whole history of the Earth.
Sounds compelling.
Right? It's just, they're numbers that are so huge.
Yeah, we can't wrap our minds around them.
And so I think when you hear people say like, oh, the Earth is 4.55 billion years old, to me, that is harder to comprehend than God.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry if that offends people out there.
Yeah.
And then you also look at like the evolutionary process, like Big Bang theory, all that stuff. This isn't in my notes, but on the Joe Rogan podcast, he had a believing person on there who said evolution works if you allow for one miracle.
Right. Exactly.
If you allow for one improbable, miraculous event, evolution works. Well, okay. There you go. So that leads me to belief, to some form of belief. This is where my mind went. Your mind might go elsewhere. But the idea of comprehending a 4.5 billion year Earth, or an Earth that was created by probably something miraculous, okay, is for me, it's actually probably easier to believe in some form of faith system. So where do you go, Di? Oh,
where
my
do you go?
gosh.
That is the question.
So if you're watching our slides, I just put out kind of where I went with different faith systems. And oddly, the front runner was not probably that good. Where I went first is I wanted to try the ayahuasca mushroom guided trip. That's actually what I wanted to do.
I don't even know what that is, but okay.
Okay, so it's like taking hallucinogenics.
Oh, okay, that's where you got that
Not
inspiration.
legal in the United States.
Okay.
Going up to Canada, going through a guided trip, and hoping that would be my religious system, would help fix my brain, help me fix all the things that are wrong with me. That was like what I probably wanted to do the most as far as religion, and have this spiritual experience through mushrooms.
You ever say this out loud to your wife?
Oh, yeah.
How did she feel about this? Did she help you
Surprisingly,
pump the brakes?
my wife is pretty open to like if you feel like that's what you need to do. I don't think that's what you should do, but
Okay.
she's not as closed-minded about it. But I also, like I said, I think deeply through my problems, and I thought, okay, like this religion thing is not going well. Okay, let's just be honest. But everything else in my life is going pretty well. And I don't know if I want to do a coin flip on whether or not I'm going to come back the same person.
I like how your brain processes logically. I mean, you're open-minded, you take all the options and you kind of weigh them individually and stop and look at them and then decide, nah, that one's not for me. So I like how it works.
Yeah, but I like the idea of like just opening your mind and expanding your mind. I guess I didn't do it for the same reason I didn't drink coming out of Mormonism. I didn't want to drink because I knew that I didn't want the unintended consequences of drinking. Like I didn't want that to kind of ruin, I shouldn't say ruin my life, but I wasn't in really a healthy place to start drinking.
Yeah.
I was in a really bad place to start drinking.
Yeah.
Now I'm kind of coin flip, but I'm past that point in my life. Anyways, so then you move on to, I actually really like old religions. So you move on to Judaism. And I actually like Judaism. I think it's an interesting belief system aside from Jesus, I mean, Jesus changed a lot of things, but I like Judaism, and I like the old established religions that are time tested and are not just like, oh, we're all going to believe this now. I like that. I like time tested. So that was an option.
Okay.
I've read through about half the Quran. So being Muslim was kind of on the table. The problem to me, I'm sorry for all you Muslim people out there. The problem for me with being Muslim Muhammad is too much like Joseph Smith.
Mm,
And I just didn't see myself kind of going from one man-led
yeah.
belief system to another. Okay. I'm not trying to offend anyone out there, but it seemed way too close. And if you research Joseph Smith and Muhammad kind of side by side, there are some really weird connections that are made between them. They were like 1600 years, or no, probably about 1200 years apart. But I do think there's some actually really beautiful things for people who really practice Islam. There's a lot of really beautiful things that they believe, and their culture is really deep, which I think is really cool. But I just couldn't get behind the Muhammad thing. Okay.
Okay.
Hopefully this is all making sense to people at home. And then we had Christianity here, which Christianity for me was a been there, done that deal, which made me initially write it off.
Does that include Catholicism?
Catholicism more so than Protestantism.
Okay.
I would have said I would have written off because Catholicism has a tie to priesthood authority. So they claim. And Mormons, there's a very common, that's funny you asked this question. There's a very common question of if the Mormons aren't right, then the Catholics are right.
Oh.
Based on priesthood authority. Like you'll hear that in the Mormon Church. And sorry, people at home that are looking for the quote, somebody can look that up and drop it in the comments. But I probably wouldn't have done Catholicism because I feel this claim to authority gives people special privilege that doesn't exist. And at least how I felt in the Mormon Church. And so we're kind of left with all of these. So when I say Christianity, I mean Protestant Christianity.
Okay.
Is kind of there. This is the other thing, though. As I started to study like the mainstream Christian belief systems, I realized I knew actually very little about Protestant Christianity from a Protestant Christian's lens. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Di.
Yeah. Well, were you allowed to know much about Christianity except for how you were, I'm going to say this nicely, how you were right and Christians were wrong, maybe?
Yeah. So I knew Christianity through a Mormon lens.
Yeah, there you go. That's the right way to say it. And
I don't think that's a fair take. I think that's a little bit, I don't know. It's just not a good take on religion to learn it from someone else's lens. I know that's kind of what I did with Judaism, though. I have a really good friend who grew up Jewish, and he really talked me out of exploring Judaism more.
Wow.
Yeah, he was very negative on anti-Jewish while being Jewish. So,
Okay. Well, there's Jewish by descent and lineage and Jewish by religious association. They're two different things.
Yeah. So I was in this holding area of agnosticism, right? That's kind of how I would say as I'm exploring these religious systems or ways of life, right? And I think agnosticism can be a good holding area. It's also kind of a trap, Di.
Well, so when you say agnosticism, do you mean the I'm not quite sure what I believe category, the big broad label?
Yes, but with a focus on there's probably something bigger than me out there.
There is a higher power of some sort. Yes.
Yeah, but I don't exactly know what it is.
Okay.
And why I say agnosticism is kind of a trap, because you have three options while you're an agnostic. Number one, you stop doing religion altogether because you're just like, I don't know. No one can know. Okay. You start into a new religion. Okay. Option two. Option 3, I actually think is very prevalent in the Mormon Church. The ex-Mormon space. You make up your own religion.
Oh no.
You say, oh no, but I'm like, lots of people do this. You take from here, you take from there. You kind of do what Joseph Smith did. He's kind of who you grew up looking at. Okay. And same with the church. So it's kind of like, it's a cafeteria agnosticism, right? You're kind of like, I like this about this, I like how Jesus loved everybody. Let's go on the positive spin. And so I'm just going to try to love people. I like that Jesus gave to the poor. I'm going to like give to the poor. I'm going to support socially people who give to the poor. I like this. I like, and so you just create your own religious system. Okay. We're going to be real charitable here today.
You're doing great.
What I don't like about it is that it's a trap. If you stay there, you're probably just going to kind of be like, I don't know, I'm going to be halfway decent, and that's okay.
Do you think it can include in that season, however long it is, do you think it can include excuses like, I don't have to commit to anything because I haven't decided what I believe yet?
I think that can be part of it. I think there are times, at least the people I know, they've gone in and out of their pursuit of belief, right? Like at some season in their life, they may have a kid. Oh, this is the best one. They have a kid, right? And they're like, religion would be really good right now. so they're like, maybe. And they start reading and they start saying, oh, maybe we could do this. And then they're like, I've already been tricked once, and I don't think they want to like cross over that threshold, right? So that's kind of a thing. I think that happens a lot. So there's kind of this holding area for, and I think that's healthy, and I think that's okay to be there. I think especially religiously, if you truly are seeking. If you're seeking something, like I don't think God personally is holding it against me that I was really angry and really bitter and didn't want to just, hey, I'm going to be Christian now. Oh yeah, let's do all this and learn.
Yeah, I agree. I think he can handle the process. You were in a process and he wasn't impatient. He was patient with you.
Yeah, and even some of my silly ideas or crazy ideas, I think God was cool with it. In my opinion, I'm not trying to look on the mind of God, but I think he was cool with it. I think one of the barriers to getting into Christianity was this idea of I know. Okay? I know.
Explain.
This is a very Mormon thing. I guarantee you, if you went to a Mormon church on the first Sunday and there was a fast and testimony meeting, we'll call it open mic, kind of help with our never Mormon people, and to help with Pastor Di, there's like an open mic. Anyone can go up there. A 4-year-old kid, a 65-year-old lady, somebody who shows up off the street. You could go up there, Di. Okay. Anyone, it's an open mic. And what you would expect is a little 8-year-old. Imagine my little 6-year-old daughter walking up there. She's all cute. She's got the dress. She's got the curly hair, walking up there. And she would say, I know that the church is true, which means the Church of Jesus Christ, Latter-day Saints, is the one and only true living church.
I'm getting it in there.
Yeah, exactly. I have to every episode, so I don't feel like a bigot. Okay, the next one, she would say, I know that the Book of Mormon is the Word of God. I know that Joseph Smith was a prophet. This cute little 6-year-old would walk up there, and then next year would come, and she would say this. She'd say this her whole life. A Mormon missionary would say this 5 times a day. I mean, I know this. I know this.
So the
And so
distinction you're making is no one says I believe, they say I know. Is that the distinction?
I think it's a more authoritative way
Okay.
that they'll say just I
Yeah.
know. And so your level of belief, or at least what you've said your whole life, is like super high. Like
Mhm. Mhm.
really here, right? Like I know. And then you leave the church and you're like, I don't know anything. And if religion is based on me reciting these things that I don't know,
Mm.
I don't think I want to be a part of that.
Yeah.
Like I thought that that's really what Christianity looked like. Is
Mm.
like not just like, oh, I think or I feel or I believe or I have conviction. It's like, no, like you got to know this.
Mhm.
And I think that was actually a huge turnoff. And it was a level that I knew that I could never get to.
Mm.
Like if I'm just being honest,
Yeah.
I don't know. Die at any point you can call me a heretic.
I think you're addressing real struggles. Yeah. And I hear you. Keep going. Continue.
Okay. So I guess it's like going into marriage and being like, well, in order for this to work, Kai, you got to be a perfect husband. It's like, oh my gosh. That's not even going to work for one day. Let's be honest here. Okay. Maybe if I had $1,000 a day.
Or what I've heard you say is you would go into marriage and you would have doubts that you could be the perfect husband, but you would say, I am the perfect husband. I am. Not I believe, not I'm trying. I am. So
Yeah.
there's a distinction there where you're like, if I say this enough, my belief will follow.
Oh my gosh, Di, I know you don't look deep in the Mormon archives, but there is okay, I'm going to pull this out. Was it Boyd K. Packer, who's a high-ranking person in the church? He said, if you don't believe in the church, the best way to strengthen that belief is by saying that you believe it over and over and over again.
Okay.
For those of you who are very familiar with Mormon doctrine, it would be the best way to gain a testimony is by bearing your testimony, by saying that you believe this until you do believe it.
Okay, so that's very psychological. And if I give a little credit, first of all, that's kind of brilliant, but also there's truth to it. So if I keep repeating to myself that I can't do something, I will likely not be able to do it. So if I begin to say out loud, you can do this, Di. Yes, you can. You can do this. Or I forgive you. I forgive you. Even though the feelings aren't there yet, your feelings follow your statement of belief or faith. So there is a psychological element to that. I'll let you address that before I push it a step further.
Well, it's like the power of positive thinking. Okay, like
Yeah,
I don't mind.
exactly.
I don't mind that vibe. I think that can be really good. I think this goes to the fake it till you make it vibe, though.
Well, where I have a problem with it, and probably you do too, but I don't want to put words in your mouth, is from what I understand of Mormonism, it's not just declaration, it's then following it up with a feeling. That there has to be a feeling that confirms that you've made the right belief statement, not belief statement, I know statement. I know this. I know this. Why do you know it? Because I've had the feeling that confirms it. Am I correct in how I'm saying that?
Yeah, that is true. I was actually going to go a totally different direction.
Okay, well, we've just put that on the table though, because the group think, and we've addressed this before, so we don't have to re-explore it. But the group think that has to happen if I don't want to be the one girl or the one guy that didn't feel something. But anyways, carry on.
Yeah, well, I want to talk about this though because I think it's a really good thing. Feelings can be good, they can be bad, they can lead us in a good direction, they can lead us in a direction to get manipulated. I mean, we've talked about how emotion can actually really hurt us in this in our beliefs, and can allow man to manipulate us.
Or just
And
lead us astray. Emotions can lead us astray. If somebody's in an incredibly abusive marriage, but they love their spouse, their emotions can lead them to stay when they're in danger. So emotions aren't always the thing that we should follow, if ever.
yeah, I guess my whole thing is, this is where I was going to go with it. I think we live in a world where we're always trying to like up the ante of greatness. Like this is the great LeBron James is the greatest basketball player of all time. Patrick Mahomes is the greatest football player. He's going to pass Brady. He's way better. Like we're always trying to like up this. And so I think when you go from this, I know, to like, well, really, what is it? Because I don't think, I mean, unless Jesus shows up right in front of you, you know at that point.
Yeah.
But very few have that experience. And I thought that my level of optimistic, I know, based on a feeling, I thought I had to carry that over, and kind of a blind faith idea I thought I had to carry over. And I'm just going to say that I was kind of unwilling to do that.
Yeah.
But I felt I had to in order to toe the Christian line, right? Like I said, I don't think I knew very much about Christianity. I thought it was just kind of this little deviation from, or that Mormonism was just a deviation from it, or close to it. But I think as I studied it, it was like, oh, I don't have to have that same level of like, I know, conviction and crying and this, and based on all these feelings I have. So let's kind of dive into what it is according to Kai. This is not, this is not some deep theological study, but I asked myself, what is faith? Okay. And this is actually a scripture. People know the deviation of this from, oh my gosh, Alma 32 something in the Book of Mormon. Pretty much rips this one off. But it says, I shouldn't. It says, now faith, I should be nice. It seems like not plagiarism, but inspired, maybe. That would be the Mormon way to say it.
Okay.
It says, now faith is the assurance of things hoped for and the conviction of things not seen. Okay, so that's a definition. Faith equals the assurance of things hoped for. So you hope that this is like, that all these events happened.
Yeah.
You have not seen them, but you hope. Okay. Okay. I can kind of wrestle with that and think about that and think about what that means. Okay. Di, am I a heretic? Are we on the heresy train? Okay.
I mean, I think we've used Abraham Lincoln as an example before, but like, I hope that what everyone has always said about Abraham Lincoln is true, but I wasn't there to witness it. I hope he was really honest and stood for what was right and fought for slavery to be abolished, but I have to go off of what other people have said.
Yeah, he could be a real jerk. We don't know. I mean, you don't know. Okay. So I think that's a good like baseline, right?
Sure.
Of that, it's like we don't actually know all of these things, but we hope it's all true.
Yeah.
I think that I fell into this doubting Thomas scenario. Okay, this is another biblical view. So Thomas, a lot of the 12 and disciples of Jesus had seen Jesus. Okay, And they came back, and I'm sure they're like super pumped. This is after Jesus had died.
Mm-hmm.
They're super pumped, and they're like, "Hey, Thomas, come see Jesus." And he's like, "Dude, I don't think Jesus is alive."
Mm-hmm.
He says, "Unless I see in his hands the marks of the nails and place my finger in his side," which like must have been like pretty creepy. I'm just gonna be honest.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I will never believe. It's pretty strong language, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
he's saying, I will never believe. Jesus catches up with him. They all get together, and he says, "Hey, see, feel this." And he says, "Don't disbelieve, but believe." And
Mm-hmm.
Thomas answered him. See, now he knows. I know. Thomas can say, "I know,"
Yeah.
right? Okay. Di, have you had this experience?
Placing my fingers in Jesus's side or in his nail prints? No.
Yes. Okay. Me neither. We're on the same plane here. Okay. And Jesus said to him, "Have you believed because you see me?" Which was like, well, yeah. Blessed
Mm-hmm.
are
Mm-hmm.
those who have not seen me and who have yet believed.
Mm-hmm.
Not who have yet known,
Mm-hmm.
who
Mm-hmm.
know for a surety,
Right.
okay, who have believed. I, I think it's like pretty
Yeah.
clear
Yeah.
that this is about belief. And what does that belief push you to do?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like I wanted to know the terms. I wanted to know like what are the terms of Christianity? Like what does that mean I actually am going to do? What does
Right.
that mean I actually believe? Like all of those things before I got involved with it at all. Like I'm not going to feel trapped in this. I'm not going to
Mm-hmm.
say what I don't believe
Mm-hmm.
or know, I guess in this case. Um And so I would say that after I kind of went through all this, I'm like, okay, did Jesus exist? I'm pretty sure Jesus existed. Like, there's a lot of evidence that
Yeah.
says that he existed as a human.
Yeah.
Okay. Like, he existed. The rub is the resurrection,
Yep.
right?
It all hinges on that.
It all comes back to, did Jesus come out of a tomb and live? Like
Mm-hmm.
really, that's really what you're asking yourself for
Mm-hmm.
Christianity is that the rub? And I'm like, I believe that happened. I definitely hope that happened, right? Like, and I took that as that was my foundation for belief in Christianity,
Mm-hmm.
right? My story of being saved or accepting Jesus as my savior is like this methodical. It was
Which
not,
is absolutely fine.
yeah, it was not like somebody knocked on my door and said, "Believe in Jesus now." And I'm like, "Of course." And I, fall over and have this spiritual, it wasn't any of that. It was like, okay, let's find out like what different belief systems could be, what they
Mm-hmm.
might
Mm-hmm.
be.
And you used your brain and you were logical and you weighed the evidence and you explored and you asked questions and you read and you considered your options. Like those are all incredibly healthy things. That nobody is saying, well, don't read anything else. It might trip you up. See what there is and then decide what can I put my faith into or who in this case.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that that's really important. And I think there's a lot of space in Christianity that doesn't exist in Mormonism. Like
To
it
ask
just
questions
doesn't.
and to push back and to try and understand and use your brain?
Yeah. Or even to be like, hey, I just like fundamentally disagree with this.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's very little space for that, I feel like, in Mormonism. And then there's all this heightened pressure that kind of traps people in the Mormon system. And so I want to tell people that like my coming into Christianity and calling myself a Christian was very anticlimactic. It was very it was just like, well, yeah, I believe this. I definitely hope this. Like
Mhm.
hope is a huge part
Mhm.
of this. And I'm willing to, because really what to me, what being a Christian means is you put what you think is most important on the back burner, and Jesus is who's leading your life.
Mhm.
Like following Jesus is what's leading your life. To me, that's what being a Christian is.
Mhm.
And you hope and you believe that these events happened. I mean, I don't know.
Well, and to tie back in a piece we've said a few times, there does come a point where you have to make a choice to believe. So that scripture you referenced, Hebrews 11:1, um, another translation would say, faith is being sure of what we hope for and certain of what we don't see. So, yes, there is hope, but there comes a point where we become sure of what we're hoping for. Does that distinction stand out?
Yeah,
So
what do
I
you mean
do
by
think
sure?
there's,
Oh, I like
well,
this.
yeah. I mean, I think there comes a point where, let me put it in like the most basic terms for people like me. I think very building blocks. Like I, I have done the quote unquote exploration or research or seen what options I have. And I have determined that I can build my life on this faith. And so, therefore, I choose to believe that what I hope is true is the truth. And where a more scientific mind, and I'll actually say I don't have a non-scientific mind. I'm just not a scientist by my occupation. But where more scientific mind than mine might say, well, that's idiotic. You've just made this blind jump to just make a choice to believe something. And that's not what I'm saying. However, I can see how that argument could be made because I do think there comes a point where you have to make a choice to believe the thing that you can't prove. And scientists have to do that too. And you said it earlier. We all believe in something. So if a scientist is saying, hey, there is no God or godlike figure or higher power or author of life, everything came into being by this random accidental thing. But you have to make the choice to put your faith in that also, because that's also not provable. What is provable is some of the microevolutionary elements, not evolution. That's a big problem. And macroevolution is where one species then becomes another. There's a lot of modifications to species over time, microevolution, but not macro. So at some point, a scientifically minded person who chooses that belief system then has to say, well, I'm being sure of what I hope and choose to believe is true. Did I talk in a big circle?
Yeah, and you're also setting that as a foundation.
You have to make a choice what you're going to build your life on. So no faith is you're building your life on that. There is
Yeah.
nobody is just floating through life with nothing.
Yeah, there is something that you're building your life on. And this is what I wanted to say, just to kind of finish up this episode. I mean, I believe these things, I hope for these things. But what's really helped me while being Christian is that as I've prayed and asked God to like heal my mind, like
Mhm.
I felt like super healed. Like I felt like Jesus has helped me like
Mhm.
heal from leaving my faith, right?
Mhm.
As
Mhm.
I've done that, when I've asked God, like, God, okay, I'm putting you at the wheel, lead me. I've felt led, right? Like I've had this, my life has been led, and things that have gone sideways as I've been a believer that have really bothered me, I've felt like, oh my gosh, I look back now 2 years and I say, wow, I've really been led in
Mm.
this. And I put Jesus at the center of my life. It's been really, really great.
Mm-hmm.
Probably the best thing for me as a believer and having my family be believers is my son got super, super sick. He got the neurovirus, right? You know, neuro, right?
Neuro or noro?
Oh, noro. Sorry, I've
Noro.
heard
Okay.
it more than
Neuro
I've seen
says
it.
brain. Noro is very infectious, contagious, makes you real sick. Yep.
Yes, he did not get the brain virus.
Okay. Okay. Good. Really glad to hear that.
So, no, he got Noro.
Noro.
Noro. He got the
Noro.
which, if you get Noro, you know everyone's getting it in your family.
Absolutely. And it's going around right now.
Okay, so he got it. And I'm sitting there with my son. It's late at night. He's puked 7, 8, 9. I mean, you know, all you do is puke when you have it, right? And he's helpless. He looks up at me and he says, Dad, just pray for me.
Oh, Bubba.
And I'm like, you know, it's just this moment where you're just like, I'm not a great dad. But this moment of like, oh, I'm putting something in my kids that is like helpful to them in this time where they need comfort. Like they also have this belief, and it's positive for them and it helps them, you know, and it's just like this really, it's just a really beautiful thing for me. And so like, yes, I've gone from this very superficial, I know when I don't really know anything,
right,
to like this belief that has like helped and transformed me and has transformed my family and has like pushed us in a really positive direction. And I think that's really like what it's about.
Yeah, that's like an even deeper I know.
Yeah, it's just like helped us in so many ways and helped us with, you know, community, and helped us in all these really positive, really unintended, but really positive ways. And so that's why I'm like so passionate about doing this project, is because once I gave my life over to Christ and said, hey, you are guiding my life, lead me. You know, I felt so many just amazing, I've had so many experiences, calm assurance that like, this is what I'm supposed to do. God is with me. And it's been a really, really good walk with him. And so that's kind of how I wanted to end the plane on this, is just that, you know, it's end the plane, land the plane.
Sure. Well, I hope the plane ends well and not in a fiery crash.
Yeah. But I just wanted to land the plane and just say, hey, like, these are the terms. This is what faith looks like. This is what Christianity looks like. So that people who are exploring it might just be like, oh, and maybe that's not what I thought it was.
What we haven't done or even attempted to do is prove that God is real. That wasn't our intention here today. And so we may have stirred up some really intense questions or emotions, and we're great with that. So send us an email, jesusformormons@gmail.com. But I'm going to recommend a book also, which I've probably recommended in the past. But it's called Reason for God, and it's by Timothy Keller, who recently just passed away. He does a great job first half of the book addressing the most common questions about whether or not God is or could be real. And then the second half of the book is, where are the evidences of God all around us that are undeniable? Really well done. He's very intelligent, but it's very accessible. It's not way over your head.
Okay. Well, if it's not way over Kai's head, it's probably
It'll make you think.
A good one.
It's really, really logical.
Okay. Well, good. Well, with this one, please drop a comment. And I do want people to like and subscribe because it pushes it out more. I didn't realize that, Di. And that's really all I care about is it being pushed out and people seeing it and the right people seeing it. So that's really all I care about on this. But I love you guys. What's that?
I said, we hope it helps.
Yeah, we hope it helps. And until next time, we love you guys. Take care.